I don't know about you, I love the way these things look.
Thankfully, this model BT-50 is based on the Isuzu D-Max, unlike the previous generation, which is based on a Ford Ranger, which is utter rubbish.
Look, I get that the ride quality, it is a bit, but it's a work ute. What else are you expecting? Okay, is this one of these scenarios where just because it did incredibly well in reviews and tests as a brand new car, doesn't necessarily mean that it's actually any good as a used car? Well, I tell you what, how about we show you what can actually go wrong with these, what you need to look out for, how they're aging, what they like to drive and live with, and how about we tell you if we think you should buy one or not. But first things first, here's all the critical BT-50 stuff. We're going to be just focusing on the third generation BT-50, which shares pretty much everything short of the exterior and a few other features with the Isuzu D-Max. And that means the Mazda comes primarily packing a 3-litre turbo diesel, and the vast majority on the used market are going to send power to all four wheels via a 6-speed automatic. However, we are talking about the whole, ute pickup category, so it cannot be as simple as that. Mazda have offered these things in over 25 different configurations and variants. For example, in addition to the 3-litre turbo diesel, a 1.9 litre joined the range in 2021. 4x2 models are also available on the lower trim specs, and from the mid-range trim specs down to the entry-level models, you can choose between single, freestyle or dual cabs with a pickup or cab chassis looking after the loading duties. The higher trim specs like this GT, they're available purely as 4x4 dual cab pickups. But just on the topic of trim specs, this is where Mazda, they could have simplified all of the confusion, right? And had just 3 different trim levels. No, you know how many there are? 7. Why, Mazda? Why do we need 7 different trim levels? It's stupid. Anyway, on top of that, you can get these covered in all range of aftermarket accessories, and pricing currently here in Australia ranges from about $25,000 to about $90,000. And this therefore means that you should be able to find a BT-50 to suit you no matter what your budget is, which might not be able to be said for some of the competition. As for the competition, the Triton, the Ranger, Toyota Hilux, Navara, the Amarok, and the host of others are all available in a dizzying range of different configurations spanning huge price ranges. It's just that some of them offer far better value for money than some of the others. Triton. However, no matter which one of these you're looking at, you could save yourself thousands as long as you get your finance sorted via Driver. To give you an idea of just how much money you could save, I did the sums on this very BT-50, and the price difference between the cheapest and the most expensive total payout figure at the end of the loan was over $18,000. So clearly there could be thousands to be saved, plus getting those quotes was super easy and completely free. Hit the Driver link down there. Now, as far as looks go, I don't know about you, I love the way these things look. I feel like Mazda's design language just works. And I tell you what, it's a hell of an improvement over the swoopy, blobby mess of the previous generation. Also, it's one of the few vehicles in this class that doesn't require a whole bunch of aftermarket accessories to look the business. Even in its natural state, it's just such a handsome looking thing. However, while it might look great, what are the common complaints when it comes to the exterior? Let's start with how shit the paint can be. Not only can the paint scratch really easily, and that's a concern for something that's apparently designed to go off-road, plenty of owners have complained that the paint just from the factory is terrible. Owners have complained that even a small stone chip that can have the paint flaking off. There've been scenarios where it's like a tennis ball size section kind of raises and ripples off the paintwork and the clear coat. Even if there's excess bug splatter on the front of it, that can cause paint issues. Also, don't think that the optional extra of ceramic coating will help at all. Plenty of owners have claimed that even doing that, they wouldn't bother doing it again. Made no difference. Instead, we'd highly recommend doing your homework and getting some actual paint protection film fitted. To get some advice on this, jump on the owners groups because there's plenty of fantastic advice there. Apparently the amount of light that the lights can actually pump out is pretty rubbish, even when they're on high beam. A lot of owners have complained about the auto locking and unlocking functionality. Now this is going to depend on the specific model, and apparently the dealers, they can either activate or deactivate this tech. But aside from that, really the only other complaints we could find about the exterior had to do with aftermarket accessories. And look, I know we say this time and time again, but if the BT-50 or any vehicle you're looking at has aftermarket accessories, are they quality items? Have they been fitted professionally? And do they actually work? Look, it's critical that you find out as much about the vehicle's history as you possibly can. Plenty of these have been taken off-road and used hard, and that can be fine, but make sure you climb underneath and look for any signs of abuse or damage or dodgy repair work. Also, make sure you get a vehicle history check done because that'll tell you if there's any money owing on it, if it's been stolen, or if it's ever been written off. To get one of those, head to redriven.com or click on the link down below. Now, depending on which owner you speak to, some of them really compliment this interior for feeling quite premium for a vehicle in this class, but then other owners claim that the plastics feel really cheap and nasty and the whole thing is just very underwhelming. This is a 2020 GT, it's got over 85,000 Ks on the clock, and for me, I find it interesting. Design-wise, I think it looks great. It feels premium as far as just aesthetically goes. But then when you just start touching some things, yeah, lots of hard, scratchy plastics, as you'd expect in a ute like this. So Mazda/Isuzu have this amazing ability to take materials that are very cost-effective and make them feel or look far more premium than what they are. The problem, however, is that these interiors, they can be incredibly hit and miss when it comes to overall quality. Some owners have had no problems whatsoever. Other owners have had weird issues like this leather finish delaminating or just falling apart, and some of the plastic trim pieces getting a bit brittle and rattly already. Even as far as the fitment of some of the plastic trim, most owners have had no problems whatsoever, but then others have had issues where the trim feels like it's so rattly it's just going to fall out. Now this isn't good. It's a ute. It should be highly resilient. And as far as wear and tear goes, look, obviously every BT-50 is going to vary from car to car depending on its life experience. In this one, I know this thing has had a hell of a workout, and wear and tear is pretty good. The leather's getting a little bit funny, but that can be rejuvenated. Steering wheel's already lost a stack of its texture here, but all the hard plastics are wearing really nicely. Some of the black gloss plastic, obviously it's going to get scratched up because that's what gloss black plastic does. I don't know why manufacturers continue to do this, especially in vehicles like a ute. But the big complaint with these interiors are the stupid cup holders. Now here's the problem. If you drink a real coffee, which means a coffee that comes in something this size, if you put it, there's a reason that they're there. It's because if you put them in the cup holders, it's like dropping the espresso into the Mariana Trench. You're never going to get it back because it just vanishes down there. If you drink a coffee this size, which isn't a coffee, that becomes a dessert. That's a ridiculous thing to drink. Yeah, it will fit fine, but then it's just embarrassing drinking something this large when it's supposed to be a coffee. The other problem that some people are having is that it's so deep, but then the actual opening isn't wide enough. So if you are drinking something quite large, it doesn't go down the hole because it's too wide to fit. Now to fix this cup holder disaster, some owners have started to 3D print inserts that can go down there, or even make inserts out of timber to basically give a proper coffee a bit of a platform to sit on. Jump on the owners groups, you can buy them on there. Also on the cup holders, plenty of owners complain that in the D-Max, there are cup holders just here on the dashboard, but in the BT-50, there's not. That's stupid. Actually, just on the owners too, a massive thank you to all of the members of the BT-50 forums and owners groups that helped us research this video. Thank you guys so much. Couldn't have made it without you. Also, as a massive thank you to my mates Kylie and Simo that lent us their BT-50, we're going to give them a free set of WiperTech wiper blades. And you can get yourself a set of WiperTech wiper blades by hitting the link down below. That will also get you 15% off and free express shipping on some of the best wiper blades we've ever used. Honestly, we do use them on all of our cars. These guys are legends. Also, fun fact about Kylie and Simo, I actually play drums in Kylie's band, and if you live in Newcastle and need a new roof on your house, you need to talk to Simo. Kylie Jane Music and Simo's business, their links are down below. But look, aside from that, when it comes to the other common complaints inside, we wouldn't call them common as such. There are some weird sporadic stuff like infotainment systems playing up, Bluetooth or Apple CarPlay dropping out, or the entire system just being slow to operate or even rebooting itself, but very, very uncommon, and it's generally fixed under warranty anyway. However, when it comes to using some of this technology, it's really annoying that they didn't fit this with Mazda's MZD Connect system because it is excellent. This is nowhere near as good. Also, the sound quality from the actual stereo sucks. Now, as far as actually living with this interior, how do we go for practicality? You've got a little storage cubby bin up here. You've got glove box there, obviously. Door bins are a pretty decent size and they're easy to get to even when you're sitting in the seats. Got a little coin tray down here. Got a spot perfectly sized for your phone just there when you're not drinking a real coffee. Obviously you've got your shithouse cup holders. Got a little cubby bin here for a makeup brush and I think some foundation. Yep. Caught my finger. You got a spot for sunnies just there. There's nothing under the seats. I've got little door pockets here for life's filth. And I think that's about it for practicality up front. Now, as far as what stuff you get across the several trim specs, the bottom of the range is proper tradie spec. We're talking vinyl floors, minimal creature comforts. However, in saying that, you still get Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, a reversing camera, and all of this and more. The XTR, it then adds 18-inch wheels, a larger screen, dual zone climate control, and all of this. The GT, like this one, it adds some fancier stuff like leather upholstery and all of this. The SP, well, it does its best to look a bit more menacing while adding even more class with black highlights everywhere and some synthetic suede interior trim. And then the Thunder, sorry, what's with these manufacturers naming their off-roading utes like Thunder or Raptor or Warrior? Such stupid names. Anyway, the Thunder adds all of the expected accessories, bar work, wheel arch flares, and a light bar, and all of this. But that's not all. Mazda proudly offers over 100 various optional accessories. Now, these can include everything from several accessory packages through to individual pieces like canvas seat covers and wireless phone charging, through to full suspension upgrades from Old Man Emu. Now, some of these accessories, they can be retrofitted from the dealer, but do your homework because quite often you can find better quality aftermarket accessories for less money. Now, look, obviously we don't expect you to remember all of these features, let alone the lists of everything that can go wrong with these, but to make referring to all of that stuff so easy, we've added it all to our completely free BT-50 cheat sheet. It's over at ReDriven.com. It's basically it's like the ultimate used BT-50 buyer's guide. Now, speaking of heavy hitters with the initials BT and also offering some hit and miss quality, I'm exactly 7 centimeters shorter than Aussie tennis player Bernard Tomic. This isn't my driving position. Yeah, it's okay. Seats are comfortable enough. There's a bit of knee room. Transmission tunnel isn't too tall, so it's actually quite comfy even if you're in the middle. Yeah, it's a nice enough place to be. No better or worse than any other dual cab ute. Now, as far as wear and tear in the back of this example goes, as I mentioned, it does get a bit of a workout. And yeah, you can tell there's some scratching on the door cards. Some of the plastics here have seen better days. In saying that, the leather is still super, super soft. Leather is soft. Carpets are good. It's not too bad. Now, as far as practicality and features in the backseat go, you've got your own air vents here and a USB output. I don't know what this is for. Maybe if you've got half a Nokia 3210, it might fit. Map pockets, you've got a spot for your handbag just there. Rubbish sized door bins, and they're almost impossible to get to if you're actually sitting in the seat. More of life's filth can be stored just here. Pull down armrest with 2 cup holders that are actually a better size than the ones that are in the front. And oh, you've also got your own speakers up here, but they're shit. Plus you've got some storage under here. Now, as far as practicality back here goes, look, it's a ute. Obviously it's practical. However, it is let down in a couple of areas. This isn't assisted at all, like plenty of the competition. You can get little gas struts, but they're generally optional from Mazda, and very few used ones have those fitted. Also, there's no power outlet back here. Now, as far as actual towing goes, these are no better or worse than most of the competition, but if you are planning on doing some serious towing, please do your homework. The figures might indicate that you can tow up to 3.5 tons in this, but as we always say, towing something that's heavier than the tow vehicle itself is just asking for trouble. Plus, if you load up a BT-50 full of accessories, what's that going to do to your GVM or GCM? Now, when it comes to the safety features, on paper, it's going to look very, very impressive, but my God, haven't owners had some issues with these safety features? We'll elaborate more on that when we actually get to driving this. Now, to explain what safety features you can expect, we're going to cut to me doing another voiceover, but this time I feel like I should do this in the most BT-50 way I possibly can.
The BT-50 will come packing 8 airbags, ABS, traction and stability control, autonomous emergency braking, blind spot monitoring, emergency lane keeping, hill descent control, hill hold assist, lane departure warnings and prevention, lane following assist, rear cross traffic alert, a speed assist system, and turn assist.
Okay, now to the common complaints and issues when it comes to driving these, and the first problem you might have is actually starting it so you can drive it. This very BT-50 suffers from a problem that plenty of other BT-50s suffer from, and it's that it just won't start. If the car has been sitting still for more than 24 hours, you'll hit the start button and it just chugs away like juk, 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 but it doesn't start. It'll do that 2 or 3 times and then it finally kicks over. Apparently, it's an issue with the battery or the electronic system or the fuel system. Now, this failure to start issue should have been fixed under warranty immediately, but the problem that Kylie and Simo are having with this is that Newcastle Mazda, that this was purchased from, are refusing to fix it because apparently they claim it's a Mazda Australia problem. It's funny how Mazda Australia and various Mazda dealerships refuse to talk to each other like petulant teenagers refusing to communicate. Mazda, sort your shit out. And then we come to what I alluded to before, which is the owner's issues with the safety systems and just how incredibly intrusive they can be. Firstly, there's the incessant amounts of beeps and bongs that can be distracting and just annoying. Then the lane keeping assist technology, it can be far too aggressive. In fact, some owners claim that it feels like the car's trying to steer itself into oncoming traffic, and if you're towing anything of substantial weight, it makes it even worse. The autonomous emergency braking tech, it's apparently far too sensitive, to the point that a couple of owners have been rear-ended when the car jumped on the anchors suddenly. And this isn't because it was about to hit something. If you're going around a corner and the car senses or sees a street sign or even a shrub on the other side of the road, it can just jump on the anchors. If anything, many owners are claiming that the calibration of some of these safety systems are actually making the whole vehicle very unsafe. Now, the good news here is that from 2022, Mazda have clearly listened to their customers because they have recalibrated many of the safety systems. The next big complaint from owners is just bump steer. Now, this is where the front wheels basically steer themselves without any input from the steering at all after it's hit a bump, or in this case, after you've driven on anything that isn't as flat as a billiard table. And this generally results in premature tyre wear, which plenty of owners have experienced. Now, there's a whole bunch of aftermarket kits that will fix this. Plus, this year, Mazda changed their steering and wheel alignment specs to hopefully fix it. Now, one thing that hasn't been resolved, which is another complaint from plenty of owners, is just the lack of ride quality. Now look, this is a challenging one because even though, you're wrapped in leather and there's heated seats and it feels sort of like the interior of a semi-luxury car, underneath all of this, it's just a simple work ute. The priorities for these is to be able to handle and tow a bunch of weight, do some off-roading and handle touring quite well. But the flip side of that is that you then have to make compromises in terms of actual ride quality. If Mazda tuned the suspension to be ultra plush, then the whole vehicle would be crap at the stuff that it's supposed to be good at. But then if Mazda fitted more premium quality suspension, so it was good at everything, well then they'd have to charge more for the vehicle, but then everyone would just complain that the whole thing's too expensive. Look, I get that the ride quality, it is a bit shit, but it's a work ute. What else are you expecting? But the good news is the steering feel is excellent, and the overall driving experience, it does feel more premium than so much of the competition, even some of the more expensive models. Plus, any of these suspension concerns or any of the other complaints these have, like the sort of lazy throttle response and lack of power from the engine, they can all be sorted out with some quality aftermarket gear. Although, if it's modified or not, there's still questions about overall mechanical reliability. Plus, apparently the front diffs are made from cheese. Is there any truth to that? Look, I'd love to tell you, but I can't because I'm not a qualified mechanic. You know who is? It's Jim.
The 3-litre, the 4J family of engine in these is actually pretty reliable, and some people are finding they're a pretty good tuner platform as well, and they're getting pretty good power. And we're just going to stick to that engine today because the 1.9-litre diesel is extremely rare and no one really cares basically. The 3-litre does have a few issues. They have the occasional turbo complication, although not what you'd call a common problem. And typically it's noise related, just makes a whining noise before it self-destructs. But yeah, there's a few of them getting around. Some owners complain about timing chain rattle on startup. That very rarely turns into an issue. You're actually extremely unlikely to have any type of catastrophic failure from a timing chain on one of these. Some people reckon that different grades of oil help with that cold start rattle. Others think it makes no difference. But a lot of people, it just put up with it. It's never a thing. The valve clearance adjustment on these is due at 45,000 Ks. Just a pro tip on that, if you're going to do it, make sure you put a new valve cover gasket on it, and just be careful on the top of the injectors there's a little plastic T-piece that can actually break off, so be super careful of that. Plenty of owners with these have had issues with a front diff. Now basically the gears inside the diff just break and it pretty much blows itself apart. In some cases that's just happened with relatively gentle four-wheel driving. Now also some people are getting that fixed under warranty and some people are not getting it fixed under warranty, but it is actually a known problem. Now I know Adam did mention this, but I'm just going to expand on it a little bit. The elephant in the room is the bump steer and tyre wear issue. Although some people claim that they don't have tyre scrub issues, but the vast majority of them do. And you can try a bunch of different wheel alignment settings, but the bottom line here is it's just a bad design. You can improve it by putting top control arms on there, which give you a bit more range of adjustment. But if you really want to fix it properly, you need to put on an aftermarket upright, or a knuckle, as some people like to call it, and that basically changes the geometry and fixes the problem. And if it's lifted, you will definitely need that, and you'll also need the top arm to correct it properly. And look, I say this a lot. If you're buying a vehicle of this type, one of the biggest problems you might have is from the previous owner. Just make sure it's been serviced properly, and even more importantly, watch out for shitty mods, especially electrical issues. You know, if it's had a dual battery system, make sure it's wired properly. If it's had a bunch of lights and accessories, just make sure they are all wired properly. You'd be amazed just how many issues we see in the workshop that just come from shitty mods and bad wiring.
So look, before we recommend for or against buying a BT-50, it's really important to remember, and look, I know we talk about this on ReDriven all of the time, every single ute in this class, they're all pretty good. And they're all a bit shit. There isn't one that is objectively the best, because which one you should buy comes down to what you personally require. And when it comes to the BT-50, look, yeah, sure, it has its idiosyncrasies and some models are clearly better built than others, but the vast majority of owners seem to absolutely adore theirs. And with a few intelligent mods, it can be a superb thing for most scenarios. However, even though most BT-50s on the used market, they are going to be covered under a full factory warranty, apparently this hit and miss quality, that can also be reflected by the dealership experience. Plenty of owners have reported incredibly underwhelming scenarios when it comes to warranty claims and customer service, while others haven't had an issue at all. Look, overall, when it comes to the BT-50, if it ticks all of your boxes and it also ticks all of those critical pre-purchase inspection boxes, yeah, buy it. Why not? It's not objectively better or worse than any of the competition. Actually, the only reason you wouldn't buy a BT-50 is because maybe this offers better value for money. But here's a question for you. If you weren't to buy this or this, would you buy a Hilux or an Amarok or an Navara or what else? Why would you buy one of those? Let us know in the comments. See you next time. And pricing currently, even when they're on high bream.